Breaking inputs in yet another ruckus and more violence inside this polling booth. As you can see, the presence of police officers and yet this brazen violence that is being reported in what should be the most secure area for polls. This is being reported in Jengra Hatebara inside the polling booth. Ballot boxes burnt, papers thrown in the canal. This has happened at North 24th Paragnas. Polling has been stalled. The situation is tense. All of this caught on camera. What is the police doing? Or where is the police? Ballot boxes have been destroyed, the papers reduced to ashes. The police, in fact, were overpowered. They were outnumbered. Shockingly, the police had to run for cover. They've locked themselves inside a room as they're allowing this violence to go ahead brazenly with no one stopping this whatsoever. Well, they're wielding sticks, they're threatening people, and they're scaring away the voters. And they have shockingly burnt down ballot papers. In all the votes that have been cast, they have burnt down the ballot papers. This has happened in North 24 Paragnas. They are attacking the polling booth at a time when voters lining up to cast their ballot. This has been one of the most violent panchayat polls reported, and it's important to note earlier, weeks ago, even when nomination papers for these panchayat polls were being filed, there was shameless, brazen violence that was reported then itself. It was a clear sign for the police and the authorities that security today for polling had to be far more than what has already been ascertained by the state government. There you see the entire box, the absolute brazen criminal abuse of democracy caught on camera there, fearlessly going ahead and chucking the ballot box papers in the pool, destroying the votes being cast, burning them to ashes, chucking them in the water, going ahead with no fear whatsoever that there would be action taken against them by the polling authorities or the police. You can see the manner in which the police behaving in this scared a manner, locking themselves up in a room, being outnumbered and allowing these goons to lathi charge on those present in the booth. Okay, this is something we're going to be tracking through the day in the kind of shameless violence here that has taken place across several areas. This is not just the one standalone incident from North 24 Paragnas. We're getting further inputs. Our correspondent Tamal Saha with these details. Tamal, these are shocking inputs that you're sending us across in these visuals here. The brazenness with which this violence has been carried out, and you have the police running for cover.
Absolutely, it's shameful, it's shocking and it's bizarre to say the least. Shahir, I would ask my camera person to begin from this particular visual that speaks volumes. How democracy has simply not been trivialized, it has literally been burnt and reduced to ashes. These are ballot papers taken out from ballot boxes by goons and set on fire. Now these ballot boxes were looted from inside the polling booth where I am standing. This is Jagra, which is Hatiara, North 24 Paraganas, very close to Rajar, which has recently gentrified, and also very close to Kolkata, the main town. But then here, about 1 hour back, these locals are saying that goons and almost like an amorphous crowd showed up and they started charging upon locals. They first entered into this particular polling booth. They wanted to capture the polling booth, and locals are saying that by capturing, they also wanted to take charge of all the ballot papers, because they are suggesting that ballot papers, while voting process was on, goons entered inside and in fact replace the original ballot paper with their ballot paper, of course using their discretion which party to vote. So yes, while that was happening, locals confronted them, and that led to clashes, and ugly clashes eventually saw bombs being hurled from either side, bullets being fired. Now these locals are saying that people who came, the outsiders, they do belong to one particular party, that is Trinamool Congress. But mind it, these are allegations. We are no one to confirm whether they were from Trinamool Congress or not. What they are suggesting is this particular block 2, and also this is block 2, right? Block 2 hai na ye? Block 2, this block 2 is a BJP dominated area. In fact, the two other adjacent blocks where the voting process is currently on are all BJP dominated areas, and they are suspecting maybe that's the reason they came under the attack. At the moment, Sahed, the voting process has been stalled, the polling station has been locked, and the voting process has been stalled indefinitely. So all these people who are yet to cast their votes, we do not know whether they would be able to exercise their franchise or not. Very quickly, we would also like to show the visuals already show us how ballot boxes were literally destroyed and ballot papers are taken out. Literally, they were taken out and thrown on this canal. There you see those ballot papers which has the fingerprint of somebody's, some individual as their democratic choice, has now been reduced to a waste, now are floating on this canal. So yes, there is a visible anger in people, and they're all questioning, while all this was happening, where were police people? Because this Panchayat election, there had been no deployment of central forces. Central forces were not really called for from the central government, by the state government, and the state has relied heavily on its own forces across the state. About 70,000 odd forces, most of them armed, few unarmed, and state has also pulled in other armed police personnel from nearby states like Odisha, Assam, Sikkim and Andhra Pradesh. So at the moment there is a tension, and these people are saying it had been a breach to their security, breach to their democratic right to exercise their franchise. And as you see, these ballot papers, which are basically part of the voting process, they have simply been burned and reduced to ashes. Sahar,
right.
Back to you.
Tamal, but this is not just the one standalone shocking incident of violence that has been reported. For the manner in which there's been a security breach in several such polling booths that we've reported today, the brazenness with which is shocking. There are crude bomb blasts being reported, there is lathi charge, there's wielding of weapons, candidates being attacked with knife. What exactly is going on today? How is the government to justify this in saying that we provided enough police presence? They clearly haven't on ground.
Well, that's right, Sahar. In fact, before even we could ask this question to the state government or the ruling regiment, that is Trinamool Congress, Trinamool Congress national spokesperson Derek O'Brien, also a Rajya Sabha member of parliament, he came up with a social media response, a tweet, where he suggests that Bengal has a long history of violence, and from history, the comparison is being done to present day. There had been a handful of incidents, a dozen incidents, which certainly justifies a sense of improvement. Well, maybe people voted for Poriborton, that is change, and maybe people never wanted even a single incident of violence. Going back to reports of violence, the day started with a very tragic, horrific report of a CPM candidate along with his wife burned to death, literally burned to death. In fact, this CPM candidate at Canning in South 24 Parganas, along with his wife, was fast asleep around midnight or post-midnight at their own house, where the house was set on fire. And in fact, nobody came for the rescue, nobody could rescue them, and in the morning both the charred bodies have been recovered. No arrest has been happened so far. What really went wrong? Who did this? It's a horrific crime, and that was once again not the isolated lone incident. Then we have violence that happened in Bhangur even before election process began in South 24 Paraganas. Journalists were beaten up, cameras were broken, people were literally chased out, roads were blocked because there had been an issue going on over land acquisition for a power grid, and locked horns are Trinamool Congress faction of Arabul Islam, who is murder accused, now arrested, and also the faction of Anti-Land Acquisition Forum that lost one of its own just 2 days back, once again in run-up to Panchayat polls. From South 24 Parganas, moved to North Bengal. We have reports being filed from Jalpaiguri, from Kuch Bihar. There have been incidents of violence in down south, South Bengal, Asansol, in Bardhaman district. So we cannot really say that voting process had been smooth overall.
So it is very clearly, it is across the stretch of the state. Several polling booths have been forced to shut down as well. And without doubt, there will need to be a repolling in these areas. Tamal, many thanks for getting us those inputs.